Welcome to the Prescott Lab podcast, not just theory, practical science for everyone. Gentlemen, let me ask you something straight. What if I told you that in just 7 days, without swallowing another pill, without standing in line at the pharmacy, and without letting a surgeon anywhere near your body, you could feel like yourself again? I'm talking about firm morning strength returning like the sunrise, energy rushing through your body instead of leaking away, and intimacy with your partner no longer something you avoid, but something you look forward to with pride. Now, I know what many of you are thinking, Doc, those days are gone, I'm over 60, that part of my life is finished. But I'm here to tell you as a physician and as a man who has walked this road with thousands of patients, you're wrong. Those days are not gone, they can be restored and faster than you think. My name is Dr. Mojit Kara. For over 30 years, I've sat across from men just like you, tired, discouraged, quietly ashamed of what was happening in the most private corner of their lives. And I've watched their faces change when they finally learn the truth. The solution isn't another prescription. It isn't surgery, it isn't giving up. The solution lies in a simple, natural oil protocol that works with your body, not against it. Something so straightforward, so time-tested, that modern science has finally had to admit what ancient wisdom already knew. Nature gives us everything we need to revive circulation, balance hormones, and restore sensation. And in today's episode, I'm going to walk you step by step through this 7-day vitality revival protocol, beginning with the very first oil. A golden liquid pressed from tiny seeds that has quietly become the secret weapon for men over 60 who want their vitality back. But before we dive in, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Why? Because when you do, you're not just supporting this channel, you're telling the algorithm that men's health matters, that your vitality deserves a voice. And I'll tell you this, every man who taps that button today, I'm wishing you more strength, more joy, and more good mornings ahead. Now, let's begin. Gentlemen, let's start with something deceptively simple, pumpkin seed oil. I call it liquid gold for testosterone. I'll never forget one of my earliest patients, a 67-year-old man named Richard. He walked into my office, shoulders slumped, voice low, and he said to me, "Doc, I just don't feel like a man anymore." It wasn't just the fatigue. It wasn't just the lack of drive. It was the grief in his eyes, the quiet fear that his masculinity had slipped away forever. And yet the turnaround began with something as unassuming as the oil pressed from pumpkin seeds. No hype, no gimmicks, just nutrition in its most bioavailable form. Here's why. Pumpkin seed oil is rich in zinc, not the chalky zinc tablets that pass through your system without much effect, but a form your body actually absorbs. And zinc, brothers, is the ignition key for testosterone. Without it, the engine sputters. With it, the engine roars. Testosterone rises, energy steadies, mood lifts, and erections stop being unpredictable guests and start becoming loyal companions again. But that's not the whole story. Pumpkin seed oil also carries phytosterols, compounds that help relax the walls of your blood vessels. Imagine a hose that's been kinked for years suddenly opening up. Blood flows freely, warmth returns. A sensitivity reawakens. For many men, that alone feels like rediscovering their 20s. And there's more. I've seen men report reduced prostate irritation, less nighttime bathroom frustration, and a steadier confidence in their daily life. 1 tablespoon on an empty stomach each morning, that's it. Within a week, many describe a warmth in the pelvic region, mornings that feel lighter, and those familiar stirrings they thought were gone. Now, let me be clear, this isn't magic, it's physiology. Pumpkin seed oil doesn't trick your body, it nourishes it. It gives your hormones and circulation the raw materials they've been starving for. And while pumpkin seed oil sparks the fire, the next oil I'll share fans that fire into a steady flame, one that ancient medicine called the remedy for everything, and modern science now calls a nitric oxide powerhouse. But before we go there, let me ask you, do you believe something as simple as a tablespoon of oil could change your mornings? Drop a 1 in the comments if you're willing to try, a 0 if you're still skeptical. Either way, I'm here to show you the science and the stories of men who have already seen the difference. If pumpkin seed oil is the spark, then black seed oil is the wind that makes the flame leap higher. Some call it black cumin seed oil, others call it the remedy for everything but death. I call it the nitric oxide booster that men over 60 can no longer afford to ignore. I remember a man named Charles, 68 years old, widowed, soft-spoken. He sat across from me and admitted, "Doctor, the desire is still there. My mind still wants it, but my body just doesn't respond anymore." His words carried that universal ache of men everywhere, the frustration of wanting but not being able. Here's the science behind it. Erections don't begin in your head, they begin in your blood vessels. And the messenger that tells those vessels to open up to let the blood flow is nitric oxide. Think of it as the green light your arteries need. Without enough nitric oxide, the traffic clogs, desire stalls, confidence crumbles. Black seed oil changes that equation. Packed with thymoquinone, a natural compound that signals your body to release more nitric oxide, this oil works like a silent mechanic, tuning your circulatory system back into rhythm. Blood flows, pressure eases, sensation returns, and it's not just about performance. Black seed oil reduces inflammation in those delicate blood vessels that age has been wearing down. It clears the pathways. It restores responsiveness. And men feel it. Charles came back after just 2 weeks, leaned in with a smile and said, "Doc, I woke up feeling like myself again. I didn't even realize how much I missed that." That spark of pride, you can't measure it in milligrams, but you can see it in the way a man stands taller. How do you use it? Simple. 1 teaspoon in the morning on an empty stomach, 1 more before bed. Within a week, men often notice lighter feelings in the lower abdomen, firmer mornings, and the kind of stamina that makes intimacy less of a chore and more of a joy. Gentlemen, black seed oil is not hype. It's history backed by modern science. It's the bridge between a willing mind and a responsive body. And yet, circulation alone is not enough. The truth is, your blood vessels themselves may be scarred, stiff, or worn thin by decades of stress. That's why the third oil in this protocol is so critical. It doesn't just improve blood flow for today, it repairs the very walls of your vessels for tomorrow. And that oil is the ruby red elixir pressed from pomegranate seeds. If black seed oil flips the switch to let the blood flow, pomegranate seed oil goes deeper. It doesn't just open the pipes, it repairs them. Gentlemen, think about it. After 60, your blood vessels have carried decades of stress, sugar, inflammation, and strain. They're like an old garden hose left out in the sun, cracked, stiff, no longer flexible. You can crank the faucet open, but if the walls are weak, the flow will never be what it once was. That's why I love pomegranate seed oil. It's not a band-aid, it's a restoration crew in a bottle. I remember John, 72 years old, a retired carpenter. He said to me with frustration, "Doc, it feels like my body wants to work, but the pipes are clogged." He was right. Years of micro damage to the endothelium, that thin inner lining of the vessels, had stolen his strength. What he needed wasn't another stimulant, he needed repair. Enter punicic acid, the unique fatty acid found in pomegranate seed oil. This compound feeds the hormone-producing glands, revving up natural testosterone, yes, but its true magic lies in what it does for those vessel walls. Antioxidants in this oil act like a repair crew, patching microscopic cracks, reducing oxidative stress, softening stiff tissue, and restoring flexibility so blood can surge freely again. The results. Men often notice not just stronger physical responses, but sharper mornings, clearer thinking, and a sense of vitality they thought was locked away forever. Because when blood vessels heal, everything improves, from the strength in your handshake to the sharpness of your memory. How do you use it? Just 1 teaspoon daily, ideally with a meal that contains healthy fats for absorption. Within a couple of weeks, many men report their energy rising steadily, their focus sharpening, and their intimacy no longer feeling forced but natural again. And gentlemen, here's the truth: blood flow and testosterone mean nothing if you can't feel it. Circulation may deliver the power, but nerves deliver the pleasure. That's why the next oil, often thought of as only for women, has become one of my secret weapons for men over 60, because it nourishes the very nerves that carry sensation, touch, and intimacy back to life. Gentlemen, we've talked about testosterone, we've talked about circulation, but let me ask you, what good is blood flow if you can't feel it? I'll never forget a patient named Walter, 65 years old, a former truck driver. He sat across from me fidgeting with his cap and finally confessed, "Doc, I can still get an erection sometimes, but it doesn't feel the same. The sensation is dull, like the volume's been turned down." That admission hit me hard, because it revealed something most men are too embarrassed to say. Intimacy is not just about getting hard, it's about feeling alive in the moment. This is where evening primrose oil comes in. Many think of it as a woman's oil used for hormone balance or skin health, but let me tell you, it's one of the most overlooked allies for men over 60. Why? Because it feeds the nerves themselves. Evening primrose oil is rich in gamma-linolenic acid, or GLA. I often describe it like this: your nerves are electrical wires, and the myelin sheath around them is the insulation. When that insulation thins with age, the signal weakens. Touch becomes muted, sensation fades. But when you nourish those nerves with GLA, it's like repairing the insulation, signals fire clearly again, and responsiveness returns. Men who start using evening primrose oil often report sharper sensation, richer intimacy, and even stronger orgasms. And it doesn't stop there. This oil also helps balance prostaglandins, natural chemical messengers that regulate arousal, erection quality, and even the intensity of climax. When those messengers are back in harmony, the body responds quickly, reliably, and with a sense of fullness that many men thought was gone forever. I've had patients come back after just 2 weeks of daily use and say, "Doc, I actually feel alive again. Not just in the body, but in the connection with my wife." That's when I know we've crossed from mechanics into meaning, because intimacy isn't just about performance, it's about presence, about the ability to truly feel and connect. The practical step: 1 or 2 capsules daily or a teaspoon of the oil taken with food. Simple, gentle, effective. And while nourishing the nerves restores sensitivity, there's another battle every man over 60 knows all too well: the battle inside the mind. Stress, the distraction, brain fog. Because let's be honest, the brain is the biggest sexual organ we have, and when it's not sharp, the body doesn't follow. That's why the next oil is one of my favorites: rosemary essential oil. The mind-sharpening oil that helps men stay clear, focused, and fully present. Gentlemen, let me be blunt. Your brain is your largest sexual organ, not your heart, not your muscles, not even what's between your legs. It's the 6 inches between your ears that decide whether intimacy is a joy or a disaster. I'll never forget Samuel, a retired teacher, 69 years old. He came to me with a frustrated sigh and said, "Doc, sometimes my body still works, but my mind gets in the way. I'm distracted, I'm anxious. I lose focus and the moment is gone." His words reminded me of something we often overlook: intimacy is not just physical, it is deeply mental. This is where rosemary essential oil becomes a quiet but powerful ally. For centuries, rosemary has been known as the herb of remembrance. Modern science shows us why. It contains rosmarinic acid and carnosic acid, natural compounds that increase blood flow to the brain. More oxygen, more nutrients, more clarity. When the brain lights up, focus sharpens, confidence grows, and suddenly a man is able to stay present with his partner instead of drifting into worry or distraction. But there's another hidden gift here. Rosemary helps regulate DHT, a byproduct of testosterone. Too much DHT can dull sensitivity and weaken erections. By keeping DHT in check, Rosemary ensures that testosterone works for you, not against you. I often suggest a simple ritual. Dilute rosemary essential oil with a carrier oil and apply a drop or two to the temples or the back of the neck before bed. Some men even diffuse it in their bedroom. Within weeks, they tell me the fog lifts. Their minds feel lighter, they're calmer, sharper, and more confident, not just in intimacy, but in daily life. And here's the truth, when the mind is steady, the body follows. A man who is present, focused, and calm will always perform better than a man who is distracted and anxious. Rosemary sharpens the blade of the mind, allowing the body to respond in full. But gentlemen, even with a clear mind, there's an enemy still smoldering inside the body, one that quietly chips away at blood vessels, hormones, and stamina. I'm talking about chronic inflammation. And the next oil, known for centuries as sacred, holds the power to extinguish that hidden fire. A frankincense essential oil, the inflammation extinguisher. Gentlemen, let me tell you something most doctors don't say out loud. The greatest thief of your vitality after 60 isn't age, and it isn't bad luck, it's inflammation. I had a patient named Leonard, 71 years old. He came to me with frustration painted across his face. "Doc, I'm eating right, I'm exercising, I'm doing everything they say, and still, I just don't feel strong anymore." His voice cracked with that mix of anger and defeat I've heard from so many men. What he didn't realize, and what most men don't, is that his body was quietly burning from the inside out. Not with fever, not with obvious pain, but with the slow fire of chronic, low-grade inflammation. This silent fire stiffens tissues, damages blood vessels, scrambles hormones, and robs you of energy without you ever seeing smoke. By the time it's noticeable, it's already been working for years. That's why frankincense essential oil has become one of my secret weapons. Used for thousands of years in sacred rituals, modern science now confirms its power. Frankincense contains benzoic acids, natural compounds with the ability to extinguish inflammation at the cellular level. Think of it as sending firefighters into the hidden corners of your body, dousing the flames before they consume your strength. And the benefits go beyond circulation. Frankincense calms the nervous system. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that blocks testosterone and weakens erections. When cortisol falls, balance returns. Testosterone can rise, blood vessels open, sensation sharpens. Men who once felt tense and restless often tell me that after diffusing frankincense before bed, they sleep deeper, wake calmer, and notice intimacy returning with surprising ease. Leonard. After 3 weeks of using frankincense daily, a few drops diluted and rubbed on his chest at night, sometimes diffused in his living room, he looked like a different man. His shoulders were higher, his eyes brighter. "Doc," he told me with a grin, "for the first time in years I feel steady again, and my wife has noticed too." Frankincense doesn't just fight what's breaking you down. It gives your body permission to heal, to reset, to function the way it was designed. It quiets the fire so your strength can return. But let me be honest. While each of these oils works beautifully on its own, the real breakthrough comes when we weave them together into one complete system. It's a simple 7-day ritual that revives circulation, hormones, nerves, and mind all at once. I call it the 7-day Vitality Revival Protocol, and it has changed the lives of men who thought their best days were behind them. Gentlemen, by now you've seen how each oil works like a tool, one for testosterone, one for circulation, one for nerves, one for the mind, one for inflammation. But the truth is no single tool rebuilds a house. You need the whole kit, and that's what the 7-day Vitality Revival Protocol gives you. I'll never forget Harold, a 66-year-old retired firefighter. He listened patiently as I explained pumpkin seed oil, black seed oil, pomegranate, primrose, rosemary, and frankincense. When I finished, he raised an eyebrow and said, "Doc, do I really have to wait months to feel any of this?" I smiled and shook my head. No, Harold, not months, not even weeks, just 7 days if you follow the protocol exactly. Here's how it works. Every night before bed, you create a simple blend: 10 drops pumpkin seed oil, 10 drops pomegranate seed oil, 10 drops sandalwood oil, 5 drops pine needle oil, 3 drops ylang-ylang oil. Mix them into 2 teaspoons of coconut oil as a carrier. Store it in a small glass bottle. Each night, warm a teaspoon in your hands and massage it gently into the base and shaft of the penis for about 5 minutes. This isn't just application, it's circulation therapy, pushing those oils exactly where they are needed most. But we don't stop there. Beginning on day 3, take 1 teaspoon of pumpkin seed oil orally each morning on an empty stomach. That internal support fuels testosterone from the inside, amplifying what's happening externally. Here's the timeline I've seen in hundreds of men who have followed this faithfully. Day 1-2, warmth and tingling return to the pelvic region. Sensation wakes up. Day 3-4, erections begin to firm, mornings feel different. That spark of confidence shows itself again. Day 5-6, energy steadies, stamina builds, and men report a lift not just in their bedroom, but in their daily walk, their handshake, even their conversations. Day 7, a switch flips, body and mind align, confidence, vitality, intimacy restored. When Harold came back to my office after a week, he wasn't the same man. His stride was faster, his voice stronger. "Doc," he said, "I feel like the lights turned back on." That's the power of the protocol. Not magic, not tricks. Just nature working with your body the way it was designed to. But gentlemen, here's the most important part. 7 days is just the beginning. The real victory is learning how to hold on to that strength for years to come. And that's where my final words to you matter most. Gentlemen, we've walked a long road together in this conversation. We began with pumpkin seed oil, nature's liquid gold, feeding your testosterone and sparking circulation. We turned to black seed oil, restoring nitric oxide and reigniting the body's natural response. We saw pomegranate seed oil repairing the very vessels that carry your vitality. Evening primrose oil reminded us that sensation lives in the nerves. And rosemary oil showed us how a clear mind unlocks the full experience of intimacy. Frankincense extinguished the hidden fire of inflammation. And finally, we brought it all together into the 7-day Vitality Revival Protocol, a ritual not of pills, not of surgery, but of nature and patience and care. But let me say this clearly, this isn't just about oils, this is about you. About the man you still are and the man you're becoming again. Too many men over 60 sit in silence, ashamed, convinced they are broken. But I have looked into their eyes and I've watched the shame turn into strength. I've seen men walk back into my office with straighter shoulders, clearer voices, and the spark in their eyes their wives thought was gone forever. And my final words to you are simple: you are not broken. You are not too old. Your body is waiting for the chance to surprise you. Give it that chance. Begin the protocol. Stay consistent and watch what happens when your circulation, your hormones, your nerves, and your mind all come back into alignment. Because true vitality is not measured in birthdays. It's measured in mornings where you rise strong, in nights where intimacy feels alive again, in the quiet pride of knowing you didn't give up, you fought for your manhood, and you reclaimed it. So if this message spoke to you, do something right now. Tap that like button, not just for me, but as your own declaration that you refuse to accept decline. Leave a comment, a simple one if you're ready to begin, or a 0 if you're still thinking about it. And most importantly, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is only the beginning. Together, we'll keep uncovering natural, science-backed ways to protect your health, your dignity, and your life. Gentlemen, you are not done. Your story is still being written. And the next chapter can be stronger, fuller, and more alive than you ever imagined.